everybody? Welcome to Masters Fitness Championship Media. Now, as we branch out into YouTube, our attempt last time fell a little bit short because, well, it's my fault, frankly. As I'm continuously learning, I want to make sure before we start going live with these things, we're recording them and we're also putting together some really good content. Problem is the last two times we've had Ron Ortiz and Jason Grubb. Both had wonderful looking videos. First off, they're amazing guests. Ron is one of our co-hosts. Jason, an incredible guest. They look great. They're both beautiful human beings, and their video quality was great. Their lighting was great. I thought I had everything set up on my end, and turns out my browser was actually limiting how much information that I was able to actually send into the upload. So got on the horn with my streaming service, figured that out. Hopefully we're making some progress and we're slowly marching towards doing these live and then be able to put up the recording later. But didn't want you to miss out. So my video is not going to be great on this one. I apologize sincerely for that, but I didn't want you to miss because Jason's got a great looking video. And then also some of the things we're going to bring up some footage, some pictures from him in the past. We're talking about a little bit of his transformation. I don't know how much you've ever heard about that. We see it on his Instagram, but to hear him talk about it is pretty cool. But then also we get a chance to pull out a lot of his background. Sometimes Jason is so professional that he jumps straight into the fitness side of things, and you miss a little bit of who Jason is. He's such an incredible guy. He's very kind. He's been really kind to me as I've started in fitness media. And he really will. He wants to share his knowledge. He wants to share what he knows. He's very connected. And so it's a great time to talk to him as we come into this changing season of Masters Fitness. And so we really get a chance to just have a conversation. We laugh a lot. You guys know me. We're always going to laugh. And we have a great time, but really get a lot of really good information. We talk about Northern Spirit, the clothing company that's going to be sponsoring the CrossFit Games for the Masters. Get a chance to look at some of their stuff. Boy, they got some great looking stuff. I'm excited for that. And just get a chance to bounce around some ideas and really have a great time. So in the future, we're going to continue to clean this up. I wanted to put it out. My video is not going to be great. I really do apologize for that. Jason's got a great video. All the other aspects of the video are going to work wonderful. So that's why I wanted to put it out there. Nobody wants to see my ugly, hairy face anyway. Stare at Jason's beautiful face. Wonderful video. And just enjoy getting a chance to hear from one of the best in the business and really one of the genuine good guys. So, all right. Hey, you guys enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Masters Fitness Championship podcast. I am joined by a very familiar face in Jason Grubb. I know that you guys didn't need me to tell you who that was. We have swapped out one oversized, bald, and beautiful CrossFit Games champion for a slightly less tall, a little bit more hairy CrossFit Games champion. Ron's not able to be with us. He is actually working right now. I hesitate to say that because I give Ron a hard time about how beautiful he is. There's probably going to be a rise in 911 calls, people trying to get Ron to their house here in Florida. But I'll tell you, we went from a two-time Games champion. We're bringing in the one and the only four-time Games champion, Jason Grubb. Jason, dude, I really appreciate you being with us, especially in this really super busy time for you.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. I love doing stuff like this. And we're talking about topics that I could talk about for days and days. So it's no problem.
Dude, that's awesome. I really do appreciate it. Well, okay, so I want to start off with this. Now, we're going to get to the game stuff. Obviously, that is a huge thing that we got to talk about because dude, you and I both do Masters Media, and that's kind of the topic of the day. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to skip over a couple of things that I think are really important to talk about, because one of the things when we talk about Masters, I think it's why we're both so passionate about Masters, is that like there's this life that goes on outside of just picking up a barbell as fast as you can. There's sometimes there's transformations, there's relationships, there's communities that are built. And I got to tell you, Jason, yours is a really cool story because, if you showed me this picture, like, other than the tattoo on your chest, I don't think I would believe that was actually you, dude.
Right. I know. Yeah, it's a wild. That's particularly a wild picture. Just the difference between my shoulders. On the 10 years prior to picture, like I thought I was a pretty fit dude. Like I didn't think I was fit. I was just trying not to get fat. That's really my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But I did some push-ups from time to time and then some sit-ups from time to time. I thought, I'm doing okay here as a 38-year-old dude with a pregnant wife at the time. And I also didn't know what could be possible. I didn't ever know that I could have this kind of a transformation. And it certainly wasn't what I was aiming to do. It was a byproduct of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. Well, and I got to tell you too, and I need to make sure I put this back up because I don't know if people see this. Man, red stripe was a bold choice, buddy.
I was in Jamaica,
dude. What? Oh, you were in Jamaica for that? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Because I'm gonna say the only reason I remember red stripe is from the commercial. Red stripe, it's beer. So
I mean, it's not good, but when you're in Jamaica, like you when in Rome kind of thing, and I didn't find that picture until a few years into my CrossFit journey. I just happened to be glancing at my phone and I saw this old picture and I was like, oh my God, that's what I looked like. I forgot. And it wasn't until I saw that picture that I was in compared to where I was. I mean, it was literally 2 or 3 years later, and then put them side to side. I was like, oh wow, this is powerful. And I also just don't have any pictures without a shirt on for 10 years, 20 years, because I never had my shirt off. Like I wasn't a guy that would just walk around with his shirt off. So, to have a snap of me with holding a beer and just standing there, it's the most random picture. But that is the one, and that's the baseline. I mean, it was literally 3 months before I started CrossFit.
Really?
And it's a great timestamp. So if anyone does start CrossFit, like you got to get that before picture just so you know what's possible. Who knows what you'll end up looking like? And you may look like me, you may not look like me, it doesn't matter. But if you at least have something of your own that you can see afterwards, and don't look every day because it's never going to be good. But if you look every couple of years, man, it really makes all the work like, okay, it's fun. It's fun to see that.
Oh yeah.
And what's funny is I almost weigh as much as the guy in that picture now. Mm-hmm. Like I was about 205 in that picture, 210. I dropped to 185 within my first year of CrossFit, and was at 185 for a couple of years, just not eating enough food to support my training. And then when I qualified for the games in 2018, I took a look at my macros officially. I was like, wow, I am not eating enough food. So once I started eating enough food, my body started responding much more to that increased caloric intake. So my performance increased significantly, and I've gained a pound or two, maybe a year for the past 5-6 years. Like I weigh around 200 pounds now during the off season, which is only 5 pounds off that first picture. So it's pretty crazy. When I'm at the games, I weigh like 198. Now I sit around 200. But the transformation is significant. Anyway, that's the story there.
Well, and dude, it's amazing. And I liked how you talk about that before picture, because one of the things that you run into, especially the longer you're around CrossFit, the longer you're around the transformation that people go through, is when you're looking at it in the mirror every day, you don't think anything's happening. And then you look at a picture from 6 months ago, a year ago, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even look like that person. I think that's so important. Okay, I've wondered this. I've really wondered this. You are incredibly dedicated to what you do. I mean, obviously, if you're going to be a CrossFit Games champion, you're a 5-time Games athlete, 5 times on the podium. That first one was 3rd place. We don't talk about that one though. But like, you're incredibly dedicated. So before you started CrossFit, when you were 38 and not started CrossFit yet, I see a lot of times people that are super dedicated to what they do right now, like you'll see that trait in them. Was there something that you did before CrossFit that you were just like dedicated everything you are to?
Yes. Basically whatever I do, that's how I do it. It is both a strength and a weakness. My ability to focus on something to a certain extent that it becomes an obsession. We just call it that. So if I just work backwards, so just prior to starting CrossFit, I had this idea, like I want to learn to fly planes. So like March. So I started CrossFit in November of 2013. In March of 2013, I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was like, yeah, I want to learn how to fly a plane. He's like, oh, I mean, I live 10 minutes from a flight school at my house at the time. And so I went to the flight school. I was like, hey, how do you learn to fly a plane? And I'm like, oh, here's the cost, and here's how many flights you do. You do all this, and you get your pilot's license. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. And so I flew. I didn't even do it. Just they have a discovery flight that you can do. So like you can get in a little Cessna 182 for $100 and do a discovery flight and just see if you like it. I was like, no, I'll sign up. So I was like, okay, it's like $8,000. So I signed up that day. I brought home all my logbook and all my coursework, all that stuff to do at home. And my wife was like, so you did it, huh? I'm like, yeah, I'm going for it. And then I flew 4 days a week for like 4 months and got my pilot's license. And then I realized that once I had achieved that pilot's license, if you want to be a safe pilot, like you need to fly once or twice a week. And it's really expensive to do that. So I have a pilot's license now, but it's just so out of date, it doesn't matter. It's just super dangerous. So if you're not flying consistently. So that was just an example. But yeah, my profession at the time was I was a wedding photographer. And I started that when I was 33. By posting a posting on Craigslist that I'm a wedding photographer. I had never shot or photographed a wedding ever. I just posted it, and then someone hired me. They were willing to pay me $600 to shoot their wedding. So I went and shot a wedding, and I was like,
I got set for a new light. Yeah. We talked about this. My light was blinking at me earlier, and it died. And I look like a zombie right now because I just got a fluorescent light up above me. So I can't have people thinking that the apocalypse has started.
Totally.
So you became a wedding photographer because you just said, I'm a wedding photographer.
I'm a wedding photographer. And I went and actually posted in this online forum. I was like, hey, I'm new to this. I want to shoot a wedding with anybody. If anybody in the US will let me come shoot a wedding with them to learn how to do it, like so some guy was like, hey, I'm shooting a wedding this weekend. So I rented a car, flew from Denver to somewhere, Fayetteville, Arkansas, shot a wedding that weekend. I took like 5,000 images just to learn. And then from that point on, I shot weddings based on what I learned from this one experience. In the first year, I shot like 10 weddings. The second year, like 25. The third year, 35 weddings. The next year, I doubled my prices and shot 20 weddings, and eventually was charging like $12,000 to $15,000 to shoot a wedding. Because I was just all in on this thing. Prior to that, and this is the last part of the resume that I'll say.
I love this.
I played poker for 2 years. So yeah, I played competitive. I'm not competitive. I played poker cash games in Las Vegas. I would fly to Las Vegas every weekend and play poker like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, fly home on Sunday. And I would do that every week it was technically about 18 to 20 months. And it went well. I went like this. This is my bankroll. Okay. For those that can see this visually, I am drawing an arrow that goes straight up, plateaus, and then goes straight down. So that was my poker experience. What happened was I was crushing it until the summer of 2008, when the financial crisis happened and all the world's disposable income disappeared. And all of a sudden, now I'm playing poker against poker players. That's not profitable. And then I was literally broke. I went home, posted on Craigslist that I shoot weddings now. I borrowed $1,500 from my dad to buy a camera, shot the wedding, paid him back, and then had a wedding photography business all of a sudden. So this is this nature that if I get interested in something like poker or wedding photography, or prior to that, I was a master's degree in counseling psychology. So I was a therapist for a few years. If it catches my attention and I really like it, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And now I know that about myself. I'm careful about new things I try. Like I tried pickleball a couple months ago. Uh-huh. Ooh, that's pretty fun. That's really fun. So I'm probably not going to allow myself to do too much pickleball, or I'll be the world's fittest pickleball player instead of the world's fittest athlete.
The next Boulder athlete program will be Boulder pickleball.
I mean, we got to go across all verticals. We want to hit CrossFit, golf, pickleball. I don't know, skydiving. Whatever people are crazy silly about, we'll just do that.
Jason, like nobody's doing you justice, by the way. Like we know how good a CrossFitter you are. Dude, you went from being a professional counselor to a poker player to a photographer to a
Yes.
professional CrossFitter slash pilot.
Yes. Yeah.
Listen, I hate like all, I mean, all credit to, Tia and Brooke and all the things they've done. Dude, somebody needs to write a book about you with a minor function on fitness, but more just like, look at what this guy has done. So
right. This guy's done some things. So it was really funny. I'll tell you this one story. So Usher played the Super Bowl, right?
Uh-huh.
Usher. In 2008, February of 2008, he sat down at the poker table I was playing at the Bellagio in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He played poker. He's got this entourage, like he's got a bodyguard, and like Usher sat down with $5,000 on the table, lost it immediately. He looks at his bodyguard. The bodyguard pulls $5,000 out of his trench coat, puts it on the table. Usher's now playing with $5,000 again. So I make sure that my stack is $5,000. For poker players out there, I get in a hand with Usher. And he didn't have a Band-Aid on his face at the time, but I was like, I know that's the guy. I know, no, it was Usher. And so anyway, I get in a hand. I flop 2 pair. I'm like, I'm taking all of his money. And I bet he calls. I bet on the turn, he calls. I bet big on the river, he calls. He's like, I have 3 of a kind. I'm like, I just lost $3,000 to Usher. Okay. He doesn't need it. So that was fun.
You played poker with Usher, Jason. That is
with
hilarious.
Usher.
Oh my gosh.
I played.
Well, you talk about him doing the Super Bowl. I chuckled at this, by the way. So, okay. So he does the halftime of the Super Bowl. The first half, I'm tuned out. I'm like, this is boring. Because it was all the stuff when he was trying to like make a comeback, like he was super huge, and then he was not, but he was trying to and then all of a sudden they start playing all the stuff from back when we were in, high school and college.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I just started laughing. My daughter, my 10-year-old looks at me and goes, why are you laughing? I said, because I'm really having a good time right now. Like I'm loving this. and I was like, oh crap. Like we're the older demographic that they're trying to get, Jason.
We are the older demographic now. And I'll tell you what, I was actually joking with my wife. I was like, I'll tell you what, if they put Tool out there, you'll have 45,000 white men just cheering at the, So
right.
it is when you realize like that, when you look back and you're like, oh man, I remember when Creed did the Super Bowl, that was awesome. Or the U2 did, it was amazing. We remember all these old things like, oh man, I'm the old guy in the room.
That's right.
So
it's
a reality.
I laugh because I remember one of my favorite halftime performances was actually, and it was right after the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake. It was like literally the next year. It was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Oh, and that was so good. So
everyone loved it.
That was like my first, because that was, I mean, we weren't 40 when that happened. When we were in our 20s or maybe teens, honestly. And so it was like, okay. And so that was like an exposure to Tom Petty. Like, oh man, that's really cool. And so I started listening to that. Now all of a sudden, like it's the people like Usher that were cool when I was in high school that now they're bringing back. And you're like, oh, that hurts a little bit. Yeah,
I am very old, very, very old.
Okay. Well, okay. So speaking of old, so we brought up Boulder Athlete a little bit. So you started Boulder Masters Athlete training program.
Yes.
And obviously it's going pretty well. It's going so well. Okay, Jason, I have to laugh. I have to share this story. So I've got a friend named Luke, and Luke is very mad at you. He calls you a home wrecker because he has 2 buddies that he trains with that they all did Mayhem. And the 2 guys switched over to Boulder recently, give that a shot, and they're really liking it. And so he jokingly calls you a home wrecker, which is just the funniest thing of all time.
I understand. And dude, I'll be honest. And for Luke, if Luke is listening, I get it, dude. It's really hard. When I was a Mayhem athlete for a couple of years, and when I was in a position where there was a couple of pathways I could have taken earlier in 2023, and one of them was Boulder Athletes. There's a couple other paths, and I just felt like there was this gap. Like, I was modifying the programming I was getting to make it fit for me as a master's athlete, right? Even master's programming that I had followed previously I was still modifying it to what I felt like a master's athlete would actually need. So I made my own modifications, and I would do that. And I was like, I just feel like there's no one's going to do this right if I just don't do it. I'm just going to do it. And I had the, kind of small team that I could build together and do this thing and launch it. But what that meant was that I had to look at Rich Froning, one of my idols, and someone who I'd become friends with, right? I was training with him and was friends with him. He would invite me over. Like, we had a good time. And I'd be like, bro, I have to make this move. Like, I have to do this. And I mean, he's a cordial guy. He's a smart guy. He's a business person as well. He's like, dude, you got to do what you got to do for your family. And that, I mean, he wasn't like, hey, I'm super excited that you're going to create a competing brand. That's awesome. He didn't say that. I would never expect him to say that. But he said, you got to do what you got to do for your family. And he understood man to man what was happening. But Luke, it was hard. I had to say goodbye to a community and a family that I was a part of, and I felt a lot of camaraderie there. And just like a family, there were things I was annoyed with. And I'm not going to go into any of the details, but I love those guys. So I still see, the Mayhem family. I still see the Mayhem athletes that I trained with, at all the competitions. I'm going to give them a hug. I love all of them. And yes, Luke, I know this is happening all around the world where someone switches over to Boulder and messes up the whole thing. We had a whole symbiosis here. We were training together. We're friends. And now y'all are doing pause squats. What is this?
So here we go. So Luke, this is Jason's invitation. This is okay. We're one day out of Valentine's. This is to Luke from Jason.
Yes.
Right.
There it comes.
There it is. All right. And
so
that's the Valentine's invitation. Will you be my Boulder athlete?
Luke, you might as well. Look, it's not just the invitation, but by the peer pressure and like, look, you want to win, right? So like, let's do it. It's simple. You want to be healthy? Let's do it.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh man. Okay. All right. So with Boulder athlete, we also, another thing that you do, and you do so well. I'm a big fan of the Masters in Motion podcast. All right, with you, Rick Stevenson, both have been incredibly kind to me, willing to talk to me, work with me, help me, and I've really enjoyed that. And with that, man, lately you have really been on the forefront, because of your. Not just the fact that you're really good at fitness, but because of your experience within the fitness community. Obviously, you've won everything that you've done, including Legends and MFC this last year. And so you kind of went on a victory tour. You took a victory lap of victories after winning the games. And so you had a chance to talk to Bob. I'm assuming, did you record that on the Thursday or maybe the Friday after he made the announcement?
We did. Let's see. When were we able to get him? They might have. I think the announcement was on a Wednesday or Thursday. So like we got him quick. Yeah, this is what we knew. Actually, it was the next day. So this is what happened. He had texted me earlier that week. He said, we're finalizing everything, and there should be an announcement this week. He could tell me that. I didn't know more details. He just said, things are finalized. It's going to be I don't know what day CrossFit is going to announce it, but they're going to announce it this week. I was like, okay, can I get you on the podcast? Like, and he's like, let's commit to Friday. If they haven't released the announcement, we can't do the podcast. And I was like, okay, so we're just going to plan for Friday, and hopefully they post it, because he didn't have control over that post, and they did share it. And luckily enough, we had him. We had him for an hour before he was on with Talking Elite Fitness. So it was really special that he was able to devote that time to me. It was also really nice that, he and I will chat from time to time, and he is under all kinds of different NDAs, so he'll share with me things that he can share, things that he can't share. He just has to withhold until he can release it. And he'll share some things with me, but along that timeline, he can let me know how important it is for Masters athletes to register for quarterfinals, for example. Like, it's a big deal for the CrossFit Games that Masters athletes do quarterfinals. And he told me that, but on the podcast, he said more specifically, the budget for the games is dependent on the amount of Masters athletes that register for quarterfinals. And I was like, okay, so this is legitimately public knowledge. But I do have some access. I have some access to be able to talk with some people and get different people's opinions and all that stuff because of relationships I've built over the years. It's really funny. There's been an element of like many people getting to know me very, very quickly. So there's been kind of an explosion of followers on social media and all that stuff. But it's been years and years in the making. You know, I've been at the highest level of competition at the CrossFit Games since 2018. That's like 6 years ago, right? I've been there 5 times, with 1 year being COVID, so we weren't there. So it's taken like this trajectory where you just flying below the radar for so long, and then all of a sudden, I can call Sean Woodland if I need to. I could call Bob. I have some people I can just get in touch to. I mean, including you and Ron. Like Ron's going to be on our podcast next week, actually, which would be fun.
Hey,
but
ask him where
there's
he
just
was
guys
today, huh? Tell him when he's on your podcast, say, what the heck, dude?
Listen, we got reciprocal here. Okay. But no, we did nail him down finally.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it is nice to be able to have some access to people that know things, or at least have opinions on things. I like to know what John Woolley over at Make Wads Great Again, the Kettlebells and Cocktails podcast. Mm-hmm. I like to know his thoughts. He's a really critical thinker, so sometimes I'll bounce things off of him. And the only phone number I don't have that I want is Dave Castro. So if I could get Dave's number, he caught me at Legends. He was like, Jason, come here. Well, one, that he recognized me. That is always a neat thing, that if Dave Castro recognizes me and knows my name, it's a neat thing. But he's like, hey, we should talk more. And I was like, yes, Dave Castro, we should talk more, bro. Of course. Let's do that. He's like, I'm not the bad guy. I'm trying to do all the right things. I'm like, bro, I've got your back. I believe you. Yeah. So let's talk more, Yeah. Yeah. I've never even been critical of Dave. He just knows that he has this target out there, like that he's disrupting everything. I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to make sure that the games continues in the most sustainable way possible, given the restraints that he's got to face with private equity and CrossFit HQ. But if you've got his number, just send it over. So,
because I've got his number. Look, Jason, you were the one that just name dropped Sean Woodland. Okay, so
I know, right?
I'm the one. Like, I do appreciate you were very nice because you tried to slip me in there next to Sean Woodland. Like, come on, but no, and that was, it's interesting. You talk about him telling you that he's not the bad guy, and I think I'm with you. Like where. I think he's trying to work within certain constraints. And, one of the things I've been critical, as this has come around, and I guess maybe now we kind of come a little bit more into the games part of this discussion, my critiques, and I'm not going to call them massive critiques, but I guess the questions that I ask are more about the overall structure. What type of support, because one of the things that I'm concerned about is like, what support is Bob and Joe going to get? I heard you talking, not too long ago. You brought up a point that I had really brought up was, with the date of the games, and it's disappointing that it's the same day as the Masters. But if you've ever done anything with major event centers, that sometimes there's just no availability, and you have to be way in advance. And so the big question becomes, like, why wasn't CrossFit on this 2 years ago, knowing that this was coming? I think one of the things that CrossFit has got a reputation for, and quite frankly, I think it's a little bit earned, is sometimes they make really, really big decisions really, really fast. And don't always, the decision may be a good one, but the follow through and the carry out is a poor one.
Yep. I agree. It's as if they can only see as far as their headlights go. They're not following a map. It's just like, hey, there's a turn ahead. I guess we got to turn. And they put Bob and Joe into a real pickle. Like, hey, we want to give you the games. Oh, and by the way, you have no time to find a venue. You have no time to put this together. You've got, from the time they found out to the time the games will happen, I believe is maybe a year, maybe just over a year. And the time constraint, like they have to announce a venue before the CrossFit Open starts. There's a huge time clock right there. So that is a big frustration with CrossFit, that yes, if they would have gotten ahead of this by 2 years, and I guarantee they didn't. They had no idea 2 years ago that this is where they were going.
No.
So, they didn't. And if they would have given enough time and enough forethought, here's the things that would have happened this season. Okay, the teams, the adaptive, and the masters would all have competitions prior to the games in Dallas. Okay, so then they can use that footage at the games to create a cohesive experience. Like, hey, here's the updated results from the 3 CrossFit games that have happened already for these different divisions. And they're going to highlight that at the games, even in the games broadcast, to highlight the fact that this is happening in the world. So there's that cohesiveness. It keeps the brand together, right? They didn't allow for enough time for that. So hopefully that happens next year. The other thing they could do is they could have planned way ahead on the open announcements, right? So, 24.1 is whoever, Fikowski and the 4 people that are competing next week. And then the next week is like Justin Medeiros versus the other guy.
Yeah, I feel so bad calling the little guy. He's like way fitter than me. I didn't mean to be so.
Colton Mertens.
There we go.
Phenomenal athlete. Just a great matchup. Yeah. 24.3. It's adaptive, teenagers, masters, and an individual, and that's the cohesive announcement to round out the open seasons. Like, hey, we've got all the divisions represented. We're all still the CrossFit Games. We are the fittest on earth. We throw that out there.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a call. Maybe they are doing that, and I don't know who they're doing it with, but I don't think they're doing something like that. And that would be a great way to show, hey, CrossFit is well connected with all of this. And again, this is a transition year, and then no one's asking me what they should do. No one's calling out. Honestly, if they would just ask like Sean and Tommy what they should do, just consult with some people outside, anybody outside of the organization on the way this should go down, it'd be amazing. So that's being really critical. I mean, I am being super critical of CrossFit, and and they've done this for years. Like, it's just this last minute kind of feel around some things. Just expand the team or hire an intern to run social media for masters 1 hour a week, and they would have some stuff out there for us. Call Kyle at the local community college. He's got you covered. But now the positive thing is, and then let's shine the light on the positive. So CrossFit is partnered with Bob and Joe. They are intimately aligned on this. They are aligned on their programming. So semifinals and the games are all programmed out. Bob and Adrian and the team, they've all worked out all of those workouts. So there's cohesiveness going through all of that. CrossFit is going to do the video reviews through the quarterfinals and semifinals to make sure the right people get there. Whatever they do, it's consistent with that. CrossFit is going to be in charge of drug testing at the Masters Games. The CrossFit brand is there. The payouts for the games with 14 divisions between 35 and 65 plus, all of those payouts are going to remain the same from previous years. These are all commitments CrossFit has made, and that's phenomenal given how hard it is to run events this large. So I see that as being a real positive. But again, this is year one, and a lot of that budget and any kind of discretionary income on that budget to make the games an even more special experience or get a live broadcast, all of that stuff is dependent on quarterfinal signups. If 20,000 Masters athletes sign up for quarterfinals, we got a budget. So we'll cross that bridge.
What is the determination of from the open to the quarterfinals? Is it still 25%?
25% now.
Yeah. So
yep.
it'll be interesting to see.
Compared to last year, it was 10%. This year we have 25%. And so if 25% qualify, and 10 to 12% actually sign up. Now, we're not going to get 25% to sign up for quarterfinals, but even if we get 10 to 12%, something like that, that's a huge amount of Masters athletes that get to do that. And that'll be great budget wise for the games. The thing I like about quarterfinals this year versus other years the most is the fact that our quarterfinals are the same weekend as the individuals, and we're all doing the same thing. Yeah. Like, that is going to make it really fun for affiliates. You can actually have affiliates like celebrate the next stage of qualifiers for their athletes in a way that it was kind of a pain in the ass historically, where you'd have like the team quarterfinals, the individual quarterfinals, the age group quarterfinals. That's huge. That's huge lifting for gyms.
Yeah.
Not everyone is CrossFit Mayhem that's just going to cater to all their athletes. Most gyms have 2,000 square feet and classes running every day. So you got to figure all that out. Having that in one sitting is going to allow more athletes to participate, have fun, corroborate with each other, and be less impactful to the actual affiliate. I think actually a bump in joy. I think it should be fun for the affiliate.
I think it'll be great. And I like where you're going with that too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jason.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah.
I like where you're going with that, because I think it's, with me right now. So the announcement comes out and it's on the same day as the teens. And there was this initial surge of negativity, and
yes.
I get it, but like we said, I think so. We did a podcast on that Thursday night, and we talked, and we kind of tried to talk about both sides, and obviously we hadn't heard your deal with Bob yet, and so we tried to talk about, like, it is disappointing. There's probably some other factors. I think they would be smart enough not to do it if they had that choice.
Yes.
But I think it's important when we're talking about Masters. And talking about, the CrossFit Masters especially, is looking at the positives, looking at, okay, how is it that we can really make this and run with this? And how can we really take that? This is something that, everybody may not be together in Fort Worth, and so that championship festival feel there, but where's the positive we can look at and really start to say, we can build on this?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that we build on it in the fact that, okay, first let's just address the fact that the same weekend is a bummer. It's a huge bummer. There's some Masters athletes are coaching teenagers, so someone's going to have to sacrifice there. There's some coaches that coach both sides. I'm always throwing it out there like, hey, if you're a Masters athlete and your coach can't make it, have your coach go to the teen event and come see me at the games. I'll help. Whatever. Yeah. There's plenty of support for Masters athletes. Just we're all in this together. So there's a lot of camaraderie. We don't have to have a coach there. We'll be okay. But I think the momentum into the future is that I think the pressure is on to make for great events, to capture great footage, to show the world that this can be really great for the teens, for adaptive athletes, for Masters athletes, and make sure all those numbers look really, really good so that that momentum travels into year two. So we already know there is a year two in this, which is good. But we already know that they're working on venues and working on what the second year, 2025, looks like. Bob said that. So, that makes my heart happy knowing that they're already working in the future and that there is a future, first of all. In a perfect world, I know that Joe was talking in another podcast about the potential that, the teen Pit Teen Throwdown team and Legends team, like they're pretty close together. Like they know each other, they talk almost daily, and that there was an idea that they might be, what if they could do it together? What if the teens at the Masters could be together at the same place on the same weekend in 2025? Have that be prior to the games. Oh, yeah. So now we've got double the families, double the viewership. We've just got a big event like that. Oh, yeah. That could be really cool. And then, awesome. Keep people from having to make choices. If that works out, great. If it's still in two separate places, okay. They'll likely do everything they can to coordinate their schedules and calendars, because they've got over a year to figure this out, and if they can get those relationships in place, if the games are in Birmingham again, year two will be even more smooth, and they won't have to deal with any of the issues they dealt with just getting a venue. Now that's going to be done. If they do that, they might choose somewhere else. Who knows? But I think year two, it's sort of like this. Here's an example. Okay. I bought these. Okay, this is the Apple Vision Pro. Okay, this is what they look like. If you're watching the video, this is a real thing. Okay, they are pretty darn good. I'll say that. And I'm just one of those guys that buys every new Apple device. Okay, I bought an iPad first generation even before you even knew what to do with an iPad. Right? I have the Apple Watch. I've got whatever. I've got all the things. I'm not keeping those, by the way. Like my goal was like if they were super productive, I can afford to keep them. But they're amazing. They're amazing. But the second generation and the third generation will be revolutionary. It's going to be the best thing ever. Okay. Because I like all that stuff. So, and that's what I think about this. Year one, the games for Masters athletes, and I think for all the different divisions, I think year one is going to be really, really good, but it's still first generation. All right. It's still Gen 1. Okay. Year 2, year 3, year 4, they learn, they grow. The relationship with CrossFit gets, even more, they get even more familiar working with each other. And I think it just gets better and better and better. Only if it's like, that Vision Pro will not get any better if people don't buy it. So like, they're not going to create a second generation if it's just a dead on arrival. So that's where, we've got to have this extend just this little level of flexibility. I have high expectations for what the games will look like this year. I have very high expectations. I know Bob and Joe, I know they can throw a great event. I know they'll CrossFit will be involved in that. I think the CrossFit medical team will be there. This is just going to be a great event. But I also know that like this is year one. So let's just like see what happens, right? And vote with our dollars. Let's get our asses there, get asses in seats and enjoy this thing. And then with all that momentum, year 2 is going to be even better. Year 3, now they've got years and years of experience. And I hope this is a trajectory that just becomes especially for guys in our age group, like you and I, we've got a vested interest in this being an even better and better and better experience. Again, rising tides lift all ships. So if the games are a great experience, these Masters, Masters Fitness Collective, the Masters Championship, Legends Championship, Wadapalooza, these all rise based on people going to and participating in the games and showing the world, like, dude, we love this stuff and we're here to stay. Like, we're here to stay. Send a middle finger out to all those that say that Masters athletes aren't games athletes. No, we're going to show them what we're capable of in Birmingham and into the future, period. Because we're in this. Like, dude, I'm not giving up. I flew every day for like 6 weeks or 6 months to get my pilot's license. I'm not giving up on this.
You talk about Birmingham. So it's interesting. First off, I loved the thing that you put up that Jason doesn't go to the CrossFit Games. The CrossFit Games come to Jason. That was hilarious, by the way. But dude, so I was looking around. So is it going to be, what's it called? The Crossplex, Healthplex? What is that called that it's going to be at?
It's called the BJCC. Which stands for something. It's the Birmingham something Convention Center. So the BJCC, or basically the Birmingham Convention Center. It's a huge complex.
Now, okay,
beautiful.
So I was looking. Is that the one? They were talking about all the different floors and everything. Is that the one that it has the track? It's got the pool. It's got the arena. Or is that something different? Oh, so that's something different.
That is something different. That's something different. So one of the things down here is that there's multiple venues. There's many venues. There's one that is part of the school down here. And again, so anyone that's from Alabama is going to know that I am a rookie in Alabama. I don't know anything. I don't even know where I live. I don't know. I know that Birmingham itself is northeast of me. I think I'm southwest. Okay. So that's just, I'm going to say that I've got some, but so I went to the BJCC to see the Tool concert 3 weeks ago. Yeah. I was like, this is where the games might be. Like, I didn't know, because it could have been there's a college arena where the pool is. So the 205 Throwdown is a huge event down here as well. And it happens in September. I think they use an area, a different venue, because I was trying to ask all around, like, hey, what venues would they use if they were here? So anyway, I'm at this concert and I'm like, this place is awesome. Like, this is great. This whole area is amazing. And then when Bob the announcement came out that it was at the BJCC, I'm like, oh, I've been there. It's great. Like, it's one of those places. It's in cities where, like, 10 years ago, you would not go there. This is not a place you would want to go. But they revitalized the area. And it's one of those types of places where, like, this used to be a bunch of warehouses. Now it's awesomeness. It's kind of like that. There's places like that in Denver. Like in Denver, Lodo is an area that's super cool. But 10 years ago, not cool. Maybe, it's kind of gross. You don't go to Lodo. That's what this area is down in Birmingham. So it is a convention center. It sounds like they're going to have 3 competition floors in a big giant area. So you're going to walk into a space that is massive, 3 competition floors, athlete area, warm-up area that's 15,000 square feet somehow. That's insane. That's games quality right there, honestly. And a vendor village. They can throw down a really nice competition with 600 plus athletes and all of the fans and spectators in that type of arena. The drawbacks, we're probably not going to have any events outside. We're not climbing the Rogue Zeus. You're not doing rogue climbs on the Zeus rig on a football field this year, right? Because they're going to have everything inside. Maybe there's a Zeus rig inside. I mean, that's cool too, whatever. Yeah. We're probably not going to have, some sort of sled push down a field to finish an event, because that makes for really dramatic, fun endings. Maybe we don't have some of those visuals, but at MFC and at the Legends Championship, those are all indoor events generally anyway.
Oh yeah.
Dude, you make the best with what you got, and you can test athletes to the highest degree, as you guys did at your competition and destroyed me. I mean, dude, 200-pound sandbags? Whose idea was that? Anyway.
I think I know whose idea that was.
I mean, just going back to, I remember when that got revealed, I'm like, that's a misprint. That's a misprint. We're not doing that. There's no way. And then we go out there like, no, hey guys, that's it.
You know what one of my favorite things about the 200-pound sandbag though was because everybody was like, oh my God. And the people that were getting it and yes, there was absolute devastation, but also just the accomplishment from people. Like, do people that finished, middle of the pack, that you would have thought they won the workout because they never thought they could have picked that bag up that many times. It was amazing.
That is correct. And I would say that about half of those workouts at that championship were one of those were like, wow, I can't believe I got through that. Or I can't believe, like on the squat one, it was just, I don't know. I think it was like 370,000 squats, something in that range. All the back squats, all the front squats, all the overhead squats, the shoulder to overhead. Like it's just insanity. But like people got deep into that, way deeper than I think they thought they could. And that's the one thing I love about a well-run Masters championship. Has correctly programmed events that should put us like, oh, that makes me nervous. I'm nervous about how heavy that is. I've experienced that at Legends. I experienced that at the Masters Fitness Championship. Like, wow, this is gonna hurt. I've experienced that at the games as well. And so when it's done right, the test is the test, and we get to just get destroyed by this stuff. And again, I love all that. I don't want to come away from a 4-day competition like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I think back to training. I want to need to take days off. Yeah. I want to need to take, it's the right phrasing.
Need to take, no, I get it, dude. And it is, that's pretty, that was the fun part about MFC was, cause, and I'll tell you the build up before. So I didn't actually take over with media until kind of right at the event. And then since then I've been really involved. So I didn't see a lot of like the discussion beforehand, but I get access, and so I kind of go back and I'd heard some rumblings, and so I go back and look at, there was messages back and forth about, oh, this is too heavy, oh, I shouldn't, but then you go to the event and you have all of these masters that are they're being pushed and they're succeeding and they're achieving such a cool event, and just in that, but also when you see that in general as well, kind of showing what masters can do. So
yes. I mean, I'll take this event from the games last year where we're just all floored by it, right? So it was 3 rounds. You've got 3 rope climbs, 20 feet rope climbs, 3 rope climbs, 10 deadlifts at 350. Okay, for 45 plus. We're at 350-pound deadlifts. We're doing the same thing that Sam Dancer is doing out there, by the way. And then a sled pull, right? The alpaca sled pull. So you pull it, I don't know, 150 feet or something. You do that 3 times. Then you load the rope onto the alpaca sled and push that sled that you just pulled across the field. Now you got to push that thing all the way down the field across the line. And the alpaca sled does not move. Just,
oh, really?
If you see anyone pushing it, it doesn't move. Yeah. when you see people dying, their shoes flying off, they're trying to do it barefoot, anything you could do, it doesn't want to move. But when we saw that, like 30 deadlifts at 350 pounds on day 2, what are they thinking? We're not really thinking what do they think. We're just thinking like, dude, that may kill me for the whole weekend. And you go out there and you do it. And, for me, I'm going sets of 10 at 350, which I don't do in training. I don't just pop off sets of 10 deadlifts. But I do that on round 1, and I'm just thinking like, wow, it's working. I'm doing fine. I get to the rope climbs. I'm able to do them. All that to say that, yeah, when you throw something out there for masters athletes, at first we're often shocked. Like, okay, this is craziness. You've lost your minds. And then we go out there and like, well, 3, 2, 1, go. There's no way I'm not doing it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to compete, and I'm going to be next to the same guys in my division every year. And we're all going to go out there and suffer. And at the finish line, we get to lay down and die. Yeah. And that's the joy of competition.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay, now I want to, you've been so awesome and so nice, and I know your day got backed up. So I got one more thing I want to ask you, and then I'll let you go.
Sure.
Okay, so are you hearing anything? And my assumption is if they haven't announced it, even if you probably couldn't say it anyway. What are you hearing about like title sponsors for the CrossFit Games for the Masters?
Okay, so I know that the clothing sponsor is I want to call it Northern Spirit. That's the clothing sponsor. Okay, so like I don't know anything about these guys at all.
Well, I'll tell you this much. I love this stuff, actually. Man, some of the stuff that they have is awesome. I was going to say, I had an athlete, a games athlete from the UK reach out to me this morning. He's like, oh, and by the way, the Northern Spirit stuff is great. Oh, yeah. So he loves it. Well, I'll tell you this. So this is my favorite. I'm probably going to get on and get this shirt. Yeah. Listen, if this shirt will make me look like this guy, I'll buy 100 of these things. Okay. It's a cool shirt, but 2,
he's massive.
That dude. Goodness.
To have the taper in there. Let's do it. I like it. I think it's cool. I haven't heard any. I know Rogue is the equipment sponsor, which makes me happy. Again, that makes it feel unified, right? That Rogue is going to be there. I like Rogue gear, and it's consistent, and it's nice to have Rogue there. Those are the only 2 sponsors I know of at this point. But no, Northern Spirit, what you're showing on the screen, this stuff looks great.
Yeah, so, it does. And I'll tell you, Jason, I'm excited. I'm excited and intrigued all at the same time because this is, Northern Spirit is I think French company. I'm not positive. I know it's a European company. I know on their website they say that it's free shipping to France and Europe, which makes me think maybe it's French company, but I'm not positive.
Right.
So I'm interested in that. Kind of that shows a lot of worldwide expansion there.
Amazing.
Now here's the deal: is I know that Reebok is largely Germany, and so I know they had U.S. divisions, and so I may not be talking everything that I know exactly about, but I think that's pretty interesting. And I think it's going to be interesting because there's another part of all this. The previous 2 title sponsors for the games were both shoe wear and clothing companies. Now with GoRuck, that they make shoes, and I know they make clothing, but they're not largely that's not what their main thing is. It'll be interesting to see how all of that plays out, not just with the games, but maybe what happens with Masters too.
Agreed. And the CrossFit Games this year is not the GoRuck CrossFit Games, as far as I know. Right? It's not really a title sponsor.
I thought it was a title. Oh my gosh.
Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But I know it's the apparel and shoe sponsor. So if you take a look at the logo, the CrossFit Games logo is the CrossFit Games logo. It doesn't say Noble. It doesn't say Reebok. It doesn't say GoRuck. This is the new CrossFit Games logo. So they may be changing how they do it. Maybe it will be the GoRuck CrossFit Games, and maybe that's how they'll announce it. I don't know how that goes, and it certainly won't be the Northern Spirit Masters CrossFit Games. That would just be way too much of a mouthful. But again, the Legends Championship was the first form Legends Championship because that was the title sponsor. We'll have to see how all that shakes out. But just the fact that we have a clothing sponsor that is high quality. I want Barbell Apparel. Let's just represent these guys. Let's get I'll work on them for next year, guys. But it's the fact that we have sponsors out there. And I think what's fun about what they're trying to do this year with broader divisions, with 40 athletes per division, a lot more athletes. They have the community team division as well, which is going to have even more, another 200 plus athletes out there. That's going to draw a larger crowd. You've got more athletes on the field. You've got more families coming with them since we're Masters athletes, more friends. You're in Birmingham, which is a vibrant CrossFit community. You're 2 hours from Atlanta, which is a huge city. Obviously, we've got Nashville just to the north by 3 hours. You have some very easy access for people to commute to come and watch the games, let alone those that want to fly in and just love watching Masters. I'll call all my 30,000 followers like, hey, if just like 1/10 of you will come, this would be amazing to just
I'll bring my 1,800 followers.
Bring them. I mean, it's funny. I'm going to see if I could get Danny Spiegel or Brooke Wells to just throw a shout out to their 3 million followers or something like that, just to get asses in seats. But I think
Dude, if
this could be a really big
Danny
thing.
Spiegel pun with asses in seats, that was a really good pun.
That would have been a good one. Dang it! I'll save that one. I'll throw it out there on purpose one day.
That works.
So I'm optimistic. I think it's gonna be a good year. And yeah, the more people we have out there, the more money gets spent on vendors and sponsors. And that feedback loop is what's key, is that if someone invests in us as Masters athletes or sponsors something that we do, that we invest back into that brand to support them. That's the win-win. It's a chicken before the egg situation. People don't want to take a huge risk on Masters because they just don't know if the return is going to be there. And we've got to, as Masters athletes, we got to vote with our dollars. So that's what I do. I'm voting with my dollars for the brands that support Masters athletes. The brands that don't care about Masters, they don't get my money. I don't care. There's plenty out there.
Well, that's always been one of those interesting things that I've talked a lot about recently is I think we undervalue exactly what buying power in Masters means. We talk about it and we say, all the open signups and things like that. But when you really start looking at it, I mean, dude, it's the people that are Masters athletes that have families that have disposable income that are paying $500 for apparel at the games and walking away from the Noble tent or the Go Ruck tent this year with $500 worth of stuff and not a couple of shirts or things like that.
Well, I mean, we're the ones that have 9 pairs of shoes. We're the ones that have, we go to an affiliate and we train, and we also have a garage gym because we can. We do silly crap like that, and it costs a lot of money. We spend a lot of money to do that because as Masters athletes, if we have a hobby, we'll just go for it. How many shirts do you have that we've bought? Because that's just what we do. And for my kids.
Yeah.
My kids have barbells because they want to work out with me. So I go buy a 15-pound barbell or one of the little 5-pound barbells, and they all got to have clips. And for every pair of shoes I buy, my wife wants a pair of shoes. So we got to do all this. This is cash for those guys.
Dude, I walked out when I left the games last year. I walked out of the Noble tent in a daze because I would buy my stuff and so I'm on the phone with my wife. Hey, what do you want? So she's telling me what she wants. So I'm getting her 4 or 5 things. Hey, my daughter's definitely going to want this. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to grab this. Oh, hey, my son, he'll really like this. Dude, and I walk out of there. I'm not going to tell anybody what I spent, but I walked out of there and I was like, oh man, how am I going to get home?
Right. How am I getting home? You call Capital One. Hey, I need to increase that credit line because I can't buy gas now.
Dude, that Noble tent it was dangerous. Dangerous.
It's super dangerous. Dude, the Noble tent, the Rogue tent. I can barely walk through Vendor Village. I can't linger on anything because I'm I'm probably going to buy that. And I'm that addictive personality kind of guy that I have the Vision Pro sitting behind me because I'm the guy that on day one, I'm like, yeah, let's buy it. I want it. I want it. Do I need it? Yeah. I hope I need it. I hope it's so good that I can keep it.
I'm really excited. I'm going to say this much, dude. I'm really excited, however it looks, for the atmosphere in Vendor Village at the Masters games.
Me too.
That's one of those, because I love going through Vendor Village. And I go through and I curl up my mustache and I'm walking around having conversations and handing out my Faithfully Fit stickers and having those conversations. And I'm really excited to see how that's going to go with the games. And excited from a good perspective. Like there's not like a I
Yes.
wonder. Like it's like I think
Right.
that's going to be awesome. So it'll be
I
something
agree.
pretty cool.
I really agree. It's one of my favorite things to do at the games. As an athlete, once I'm done competing, dude, I love just walking around Vendor Village. Just just window shopping and looking at everything. And when I'm at the games, when I'm live in person, well, of course I'm always live in person. When I'm there with my own truck,
Yeah.
I love okay, do I need these plates? Because I could buy them at a discount here. Maybe I'll get them. And I have done so. I've left the games with an ice barrel. I came with one and I left with another. I've done all the things. So
that's awesome. Well, dude, I really appreciate it. Here's the deal, guys, is, Jason Grubb, you guys know him. He's won some minor competitions. He's won, I don't know, the games, but you know him mainly as the Masters Fitness Championship champion. Did a great job with that. Him and he had a back and forth for a while, and that was a lot of fun.
It was.
And so, Jason, appreciate you being on. Hey, want to remind you guys, the online qualifier, the sign up is live June 1st to the 9th. It's going to be 2 weeks long. Got some great workouts coming your way. I have seen them. I plan on doing them and filming myself doing them. And giving you guys all the rundown, and please don't expect anything amazing. My shape is round currently, so it'll be more about watch the fat guy with the beard suffer and laugh at him, and just enjoy some media. But that's coming up. Excited for everything coming up. Jason, dude, thanks for what you do with your media stuff. Thanks for what you're doing in the community, and dude, thanks for being on and chatting with me for a while, brother.
Sure, Kyle. Thanks for having me, dude. I appreciate it. I love doing this.
Absolutely. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Stick around. We will be doing so much more. Got a lot coming up, especially with the open season coming up. So sign up for the open and, man, have a great time. Enjoy the community. Enjoy with everybody. And, man, let's start marching towards the quarters, semis, and games. So, guys, thank you for joining us.